If you look just beyond my head, I have a trophy sitting right over there. That is the trophy to my new fantasy league that I made with my family last year. And I get to keep that trophy because I won the league with one of the most broken teams I've ever had in my life. So much to the point where I should not get away with it next year. If I do, shame on them. But in this video, what I'm going to do is look over my fantasy league that I created with my family. And we're going to look at each position and rank the top 10 best players by points they scored throughout the entire year based on my scoring system, which is an interesting one that I learned from one of my friends and that I implemented into this league. I'll talk about it before each and every. I'll talk about it first off, and then I'll get into the top 10s, and we're going to look over all the positions, of course, quarterback to defense. And we're going to be looking at just how good 2025 was with certain teams, and I'll point out the players that were on my team. So I hope you guys are excited for this video. This is kind of a filler episode because the next 2 weeks, or really the next 3 weeks, we're going to have 2 episodes based on draft or mock drafting, and then we're going to have a live stream on the first night of the draft, and we're going to react to the draft together. If you want to see it, it will be here on this channel. Then after that, we have the FIFA video, and then fantasy football training for the next season, as we always do on this channel. Enjoy this episode. It's a filler, of course, but it's a fun one, and I cannot wait for it. Let's get started. So my league is interesting. Most fantasy football leagues have decimal scoring, in which like a player gets a decimal per yard they make. Like if somebody gets 5 yards, you get 0.5 points. But in my league, it's full scoring. You cannot get a singular point unless you get 10 yards as a wide receiver or a running back, or 15 yards as a quarterback. And that is, it can be very frustrating having a quarterback, let's say around like 274 or close to 300, and they don't get that extra yard extra, and then you don't get that point in full, and it could cost you in fantasy. But in my league, you also have bonuses. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, everybody gets bonuses. For quarterbacks, it's around 275 to 300 to 325 yards. They get bonuses there, 350. For wide receivers and running backs, it's around the 70s, the 100s, and the 150s. I'll go into more depth of my scoring in case anybody wants to try a league like that. For defenses, a lot of it's prefacized on how many points they allow versus how many yards they allow, and most defenses start around like 41 points in my league, and then they will trickle down as long as the game goes, as the more yards they give up or the more points they give up. And if they don't, obviously they have high scoring plus bonuses for doing all the other stuff: sacks, tackles for losses, fumbles, interceptions, all the good jazz. And then you have other interesting facts with my league. Kickers obviously move up and down when it comes to yards. If somebody kicks for more than 40 yards, they get 4 points, more than 50, 5 points. Though I'm trying to look for something for 60 yards plus to make it 6 points, because let's be honest, there is more of that happening. I hope fantasy actually puts in something that I can implement that so we can get 6 points if somebody kicks a field goal over 60 yards. And the fun tidbit is wide receivers, running backs, or basically anybody who is going to be doing kick returns or punt returns, they get points based off yardage that they get in kickoffs and in punts, which you're going to see with the wide receiver section. You're going to see some players on there you would not expect to be in the top 10 for fantasy. But that's the fun of my scoring system. So now that we got that out of the way, let's look at the top 10 players in my league per the scoring system for each position. So the top 10 quarterbacks in my league: number 1 was Matthew Stafford, number 2 was Dak Prescott, 3 was Josh Allen, 4 was Jared Goff, 5 was Drake May, 6 was Trevor Lawrence, number 7 was Bo Nix, 8 was Caleb Williams, 9 was Justin Herbert, and number 10 was Jalen Hurts. Of course, Matthew Stafford was going to have the most. MVP, 46 touchdowns, the most passing yards. He basically had a lot of the stats you want as somebody who is going to be the number 1 quarterback. I had him on my team along with Drake May. So I had him and Drake May, and Stafford had 597 in my league. Drake May had 513. Looking at these quarterbacks, it's very interesting. I was surprised that Jalen Hurts was on this list. I didn't think he had that big of a statistical season, but he also has the rushing touchdowns, the tush push, so he's going to get points for that. But it's interesting because Lamar Jackson, well, then again, Lamar Jackson did have the injuries and stuff, so of course he wasn't going to be in the top 10. But seeing some of the stats, if you were looking at my shorts this week, most of the statistics outside of Geno Smith leading in interceptions, number number 1, number 3, number 5 on this list, they led some of the more important stats, like Drake May had the best completion percentage, Matthew Stafford with the yards and passing touchdowns, and then Josh Allen with the rushing side of things, rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. So it's very interesting to see most of these quarterbacks made the playoffs. Number 2, number 4, they did not make the playoffs, still had great seasons, and their wide receiver cores also had amazing seasons as well. And then Trevor Lawrence obviously having the comeback year that he did, and he played very well, and getting Jacoby Myers might have also helped in the late season surge to put him in the top 10. Bo Nix didn't have a lot to work with, which is why it's very impressive that he was on this list. Really, he only had Cortland Sutton, but he's getting Jalen Waddle next year, so that should help. Caleb Williams at 8, I'm happy for him. I'm surprised he was up there that high, but he did have a lot of consistent stretches, along with having some games where the Bears had over 40 points, so that helps there. Justin Herbert, I'm not surprised. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks for fantasy football. I am kind of shocked he did make top 10. I think that with the scheme that the Chargers are going with, you wouldn't expect that, but at the beginning of the year, he did have these high surges, especially with some of his wide receivers, and then it kind of slowed down, and when the offensive line started to break apart, it wasn't working super well, so it's kind of a surprise that he's at number 9. Looking at this entire list, I'm just kind of shocked that I didn't even draft Drake May and Matthew Stafford. I drafted Kyler Murray and Brock Purdy, who obviously weren't on this list, and somehow replaced them to get Drake May and Stafford to go along with what was really an amazing supporting cast on my team, which we're going to get to now. But this is the top 10 quarterbacks. Take a look at it. I mean, a lot of shockers on here, really. I mean, Lawrence, Nix, Williams. I didn't expect, obviously Drake May, I didn't see that one coming, but I mean, I'm happy with the list, and it's going to give me a little bit of a heads up of how I'm going to view doing the draft next year, because I got my first quarterback in the 6th round, which is late for me. Normally I get it around round 3, but 6th round, just spent most of the rounds going and getting better wide receivers and running backs, while the rest of the people in my family were prophesizing trying to build balance with quarterbacks, but I leaned really heavy on the weapons and it worked. Running backs is where I succeeded the most. Number 1 was Bijan Robinson, 2 was Jonathan Taylor, 3 was James Cook the 3rd, 4th was Jahmyr Gibbs, 5 was Christian McCaffrey, 6 was Derrick Henry, 7 was Devon Achane, 8 was Travis Achane Jr., 9 was Saquon Barkley, and 10 was Kyren Williams. I had Robinson, Taylor, and Achane. The number 1, the number 2, the number 7 running back. All on my team, they started the majority of the year except for when they were on bye. Bijan had a lot of the all-purpose yards. Jonathan Taylor led with carries and rushing touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey basically led every single receiving stat possible for a running back. And James Cook led with all rushing yards at 1,621. Then Jahmyr Gibbs, I expect him to be the number 1 draft pick in most leagues next year. Him or Bijan Robinson, one of those two. Because Gibbs, man, he is a scary player. And now that he is going to be the main number 1, he's not going to be sharing time with David Montgomery, which is kind of sad. I wish they would still share time, but obviously he's going to get more reps, and in theory, he should have more points next year, assuming he doesn't get injured. Derrick Henry, I'm surprised he was on this list, if I'm being honest. I thought that he had a really good start to the year, but this was not the kind of Derrick Henry year I'm accustomed to seeing. From an eye point, I didn't like it too much. It's nice that he's still in the top 6. I thought he could have done a lot better. I thought this was kind of a down year for him. Achane, I mean, he's going to be in... Poor guy. He's going to have to be the only thing Miami has to cheer for next year, because they're clearly having a tanking season. I'd still pick him up early in the rounds, though. He's still somebody extremely valuable. Achane Jr. from Jacksonville to New Orleans now. I expect him to actually have a much better season next year, along with the young Tyler Shuck. I think that the offense for New Orleans could be very special next year. Do not sleep on New Orleans, I'm telling you. I saw a late season surge that had me really thinking. I was like, if they can build around this quarterback, who knows? The Saints could be a very quiet dark horse team. I want to know what you guys think about that. I think they could win the South next year. So that's a long shot. The South is going to be tough, especially they're a mediocre division, but still, it's tough competition. Barkley was my first overall pick in the league that most of you guys are accustomed to seeing me in, which is my main league that I'm a participant in, but not the leader in. But I was so disappointed with Barkley. I thought he was doing so horribly, so I got rid of him for Drake London. Straight up, I thought that was a better deal for me. At least London was being consistent when he was healthy. Of course, Barkley started to go off after that, but I wasn't impressed with Saquon. It makes sense that he was down low. I don't think I'm going to pick him that high again. And then Kyron Williams just being slightly over Javonte Williams, who's my guy, obviously, for the Cowboys. Kyron has always been one of my favorite running backs. Obviously, he's a Notre Dame guy. I'm a Notre Dame fan. It makes sense. And the fact that the Rams, that offense they had, it makes sense he's in the top 10 because, wow, they were able to feed off of him because of that amazing wide receiver crew. I'm so shocked that the Rams fell apart so late. I thought that that was going to be the Super Bowl team. Obviously, Seattle, it made sense. Their defense was just that spectacular, but they had such a complete offense. And I didn't even really talk about Christian McCaffrey, only healthy 49er throughout the year. And this is what a healthy season looks like. He's still one of the best running backs. If he was in front of me, I'd still pick him in the fantasy draft to round 1. Maybe not super early, but late, which is going to be my pick. I'm going to be the last pick in my main draft. So, hey, maybe I'll get Christian McCaffrey. Who knows? But we'll see about that. Overall, this is a great top 10. Didn't really talk much about James Cook and him and Josh Allen rushing the ball the most on the team instead of airing it out, and still Josh Allen can air it out very well, but James Cook having the most rushing yards, I thought that was funny, and he was the only player I was concerned about in the championship game, which he didn't really have a good game against Philly, so it worked out for me. Really, this is an entire great lineup, and I didn't really go into much detail with Bijan and Jonathan Taylor, and they were my guys, so. This is just to show you, I had the number 1 quarterback, and the number 1, number 2, and number 7 running back, along with the number 5 quarterback as well. And then we get to wide receivers, well, still have the list going there. But this is the top 10 running backs in the league. Let me know what you guys think about it. I think this is probably what it is in most leagues, but let me know. This is where that kickoff return, punt return yardage, and how that points and how those points are projected in my league show this kind of top 10. This is a very interesting wide receiver list. Number 1, JSN. Number 2, Puka. Number 3, George Pickens. Number 4, Chamiri Dyke, who is one of the kickoff returns. He didn't lead any of those stats, but he was high up there in both of them. Then you have St. Brown and Chase tied for 5th. Kevontae Turpin is the other one, another Cowboy on there. It's not CeeDee Lamb, it's Kevontae Turpin, who led in kickoff return yards. Jamison Williams, which was kind of shocking knowing I had him on my main team and let him go because I thought he wasn't doing great, but apparently in the league that I was in, running, he was top 10. Zay Flowers at 9 and Chris Olave at 10. How interesting those two in the top 10, and not Justin Jefferson or any of these other big wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Flowers, Olave, Williams. Really, there's only 5 wide receivers on this list that you say, oh, well, makes sense that they were in the top 10. The other 5, Dyke, Turpin, Williams, Flowers, Olave, I wouldn't have suspected it at all. But let's break it down. First of all, Jackson, I mean, what a year. A jump in year 3 to have the most receiving yards, amazing. Puka was the wide receiver on my team. I had him along with Bijan and Jonathan Taylor. Those 4 automatically. Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, and Puka Nacua. How could I ever get rid of those guys or sit them down on anything that's not their bye week? And then George Pickens, hallelujah. As a Cowboys fan, I hope we keep him for a while. He was such an entertaining wide receiver to watch. Chamiri and Turpin were very dominant in the kickoff return game. It's interesting. And in my league, obviously, that means a lot, and we were really keeping an eye out on those two all year. It's just pretty funny to see. Then St. Brown and Chase, I put St. Brown ahead of Chase, more or less. I think he had more consistency throughout the year. It's not Chase's fault. He had a multitude of quarterbacks working with him throughout the year after Joe Burrow's injury, which blows, honestly. If you have a full Joe Burrow year, Chase is number 1 generally. And Jamison Williams, I didn't see that one coming, honestly. When I was looking at the points, I was surprised to see him up there. And of course, Zay Flowers and Chris Olave, but I'm very interested in Olave because of Tyler Shuck and how that could be something special. I'm very interested to see what the Saints are going to do. Seriously, I think it's going to be fun. I didn't see Zay Flowers being up there, really. I'm surprised he's there. And looking at the other wide receivers, I mean, Lamb was down, AJ Brown was down, and I'm surprised some of the rookies weren't on this list, like Emeka Egbuka. I thought he would have been on this list maybe, but apparently not. So this might be the oddest wide receiver list possible. But this is what it looked like in my league because of kickoff returns and the fact that quarterbacks went down with injuries, wide receivers went down with injuries like CeeDee Lamb, and it's just most of these wide receivers would not appear high on any of my potential draft lists for you guys in the future, but it is what it is. So in my league and the league that I'm also participating in, wide receivers and tight ends are interchangeable. There's not a specific spot for a tight end on the roster. So if you wanted to go all 5 wide receiver, you could, and not put any tight ends, you could do that in my league. And it makes sense when I look at this list. There's only one tight end last year who was worth drafting and starting. Number 1, Trey McBride. I had him, I think, at number 4 as far as like my preseason rankings, but probably not this year. He had one heck of a season with Arizona, 246 points. Number 2 is way far off, 99-point difference between 1 and 2. And number 2 is Kyle Pitts. 3 is Dallas Goedert. 4 is Brock Bowers. 5 is Hunter Henry. Number 6 is Travis Kelce. 7 is Colston Loveland. 8 is Tyler Warren, 9 is Fannin Jr., and Kittle is number 10. Loveland, Warren, Fannin. Now, I had Warren over Loveland preseason. I'm glad they are all on this list. I prefer Tyler Warren more. I think his role for the Colts is better than Loveland's role for the Bears. Now, Bears fan will fight me on that. I watched more of the Colts this year, so probably why I think Warren is a better tight end. Plus, I saw him versus Notre Dame in that semifinals round, the first 12-team format. So it makes sense why I would choose Tyler Warren. I still do, but Colston Loveland clearly had a lot to do this year. It's good for him. Looking at number 1, Trey McBride, and then Pitts at 2 with 147 points. That's just wild. And Trey McBride, look, he might have Jacoby Brissett, and he won't have Kyler Murray. I still think he is worth being the number 1 and being drafted slightly early. I think that he's going to still get a lot more points. He's obviously going to be the most reliable target there, so why not? Kyle Pitts, I mean, good for him. He's kind of been like an up and down tight end for fantasy football, but I'm glad that he got up there. Goddard, obviously, the reason why he's up there is because him and McBride had the most touchdowns this year. Brock Bowers should be higher. I'm surprised he isn't, but then again, he didn't really have a quarterback, so makes sense. And he was still number 4. Hunter Henry had Drake May, obviously, that worked out for him. Kelsey's still up there, though you can tell that this should be his last season. The next one should be his last. I don't know. I think that his time being an elite tight end is almost up. Still, he's in the top 10, so good for him. Obviously, when looked over the rookies, Fannin was a surprise. I didn't see that coming. In fact, I didn't even know of the guy until I started looking at these points and projections. I did not see that coming. But then again, we don't really work with tight ends, so that's probably why I overlooked it. And then Kittle, he missed a lot with injury, and he's probably going to miss a lot more this year, so I don't know how high I would pick him. I don't even know when he's supposed to be back or healthy. That could be midway through the year, towards the end of the year, who knows. But yeah, this is the tight end list. There's a reason why we don't put tight ends on their own roster. We can have 5 wide receivers instead, because tight ends don't really produce a lot. McBride's the exception, and that's it. But yeah, these are the top 10 tight ends in our league. And then the top 10 kickers, you have Jason Myers at number 1, Keami Fairbairns at 2, my guy, Brandon Aubrey at 3, Cameron Dicker, who was in my main league, at number 4, Cam Little, who's the big talking point of the NFL for kicking because he has multiple records with long kicks, 68 yards. God, that's stupid. Richard, you have him at number 6. Along with McLaughlin at 7. Bates and Boswell are tied at 8. And, forgive me if I mispronounce his name, Borregales, New England's kicker at number 10. There's not much to talk about with kickers. Obviously, we don't really go deep in depth with kicking, but Myers obviously had a lot of chances with how great that offense was this year. Keami Fairbairn makes sense. He's extremely accurate. Aubrey makes sense. He's one of the best boots in football, and he's one of the best Cowboys out there possible. Cameron Dicker, obviously, I have a lot of high hope for him. And top 4, Cam Little, rookie, if I'm not mistaken. And now he has the record for the longest field goal. Now, obviously, the balls are changed, so they use kicking balls for actual field goals, which have more air in them, and they're more likely to go further, and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I get that, but still, it's crazy. I'm happy for Jacksonville, and he's going to have to be kicking a little bit in Orlando next year, which we'll get to that, but still, happy for Jacksonville. Didn't really pay attention to any of the rest of the kickers. I had McLaughlin on my team along with Cameron Dicker and Aubrey on this championship team that I had. Bates, obviously, a lot of potential. Boswell had to kick a lot of field goals because Steelers' offense was great enough to get down the field, wasn't amazing at getting touchdowns throughout the year, at least in my opinion. Then Borregales, obviously, is going to have the opportunities with how many times the Patriots were threatening. So that's the top 10 kickers. We're not going to look too far into that after that. And then the top 10 defenses: Seattle, Houston, Denver, Minnesota, Cleveland, Jacksonville, New England, New Orleans, Philly, and the Los Angeles Chargers. Seahawks and Texans, we don't have to talk more about that. They were dominant this year. The Texans defense was one of the best throughout the year. And then, of course, the Seahawks defense, they were extremely clutch in the playoffs. And throughout the year, I mean, it makes sense, except for that Thursday night game against LA, but still. And then Denver, obviously, I had them as one of the best defenses going into the year. I had them on both my teams. Makes sense. Vikings, they're generally very well regarded as a ball hawk team with interceptions. Makes sense. I'm happy that the Browns are on this list. I think this is, besides Fannin, this is the only list that they're in the top 10. And obviously, their defense is not an issue at all. Myles Garrett had the sack record. Carson Schwarzenegger, Rookie of the Year. They have so much. They just need to work on that offense and get it built. And this team, they can be a playoff team. They have a playoff defense. They just got to work on that offense and figure out what kind of game plan they're going to run with, whether it's Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, or somebody else. Jacksonville, I understand. Defense up front is very strong, especially with Josh Allen up there. New England's defense is generally regarded very highly, though they didn't do super well in that Super Bowl. Actually, no, they did very, very well. Obviously, some moments, the field goals, could have done a little better, I guess, but hey, there's only so much you can do when your offense just struggled to make any form of progress. Surprised that New Orleans was there. Obviously, I think that they should not be on this list. I'm not sure why. Philly, duh. And the Chargers, duh. Should be up there. For the most part, I'm not shocked by any of these defenses outside of New Orleans. I'm gonna have to take a really long look. I think I would value getting Houston really high next year in my league, because obviously you're looking at the points right now. Defenses get a lot of points in my league, so I value them very highly. Now in other leagues, they're not worth anything, but the point of scoring in my league is so that every single position is valuable, so that you're more or less going through the entire draft really trying to make sure every single position is maximized to the best and not just kind of neglecting a defense or kicker, because I know in most leagues people go one kicker, one defense, and then switch them out very often. In our league, we want to make sure that, especially with the new drafters, that everybody's on a similar playing field. So the only way to do that well is, number one, make an actual roster sheet for everybody in the league, and two, make every single position worth drafting. And we were able to do that. I'm happy for the results, and overall this has been a fun set of fantasy, and I cannot wait to do the fantasy this next season. So hope you guys are excited for that. Before we end off this video, we got a question to answer, and this comes from me and Chicago from one of my YouTube shorts in regards to DJ Moore, and he says, definitely a good trade by Buffalo in my opinion, but I think Chicago won. He started every game and yet didn't even get 700 yards receiving. That says something. He's a wide receiver 1. A second round pick is ridiculous. That's just me. Who do you think won in that trade? Well, for me, the reason why I like the trade is because Josh Allen was working with basically nothing. He had a great running back and good tight ends, but the wide receiver core was laughable. And yet, he's able to do a lot with a little. And I just think that Josh Allen needs some kind of weapon. Maybe they need more. And I said they should get Deebo Samuel because I think they need to continue to work on getting Allen as many pieces as possible. And Samuel fits a lot more regards and can do a lot more trick plays, which would help take the pressure off of Allen. I think that this trade is a stalemate. I think both sides got something good out of it. If you want to say Chicago, I get it, because DJ Moore's production is going down and a second round pick is pretty high, but I don't know. I think Buffalo, their window is closing, and I think they got to do something eventually. They got to put some weapons. You lost Stephon Diggs. You haven't been able to rebuild that receiving core. This is a small piece, but it's a good one in the right direction. That's what I think. I'll lean Chicago because they can work with more of the second round pick and potentially move that around to get a better player, but we'll see. And that'll do it for today's video. I already talked about it earlier in the episode, but just so you guys understand what's going on, these next 2 weeks are going to be These next 2 weeks are going to be about the NFL draft. In fact, I'll go ahead and tell you, the first video is going to be picks 1 through 16, and then the second video is going to be picks 17 through 32. And then the Thursday of the draft, I'm going to be live streaming, hopefully. If I am, obviously, I'll let you guys know. I most likely will do it, and something I'm looking forward to. I just got to make sure that I have all the settings ready to go, and once we get that, we'll have the draft. There won't be a video that week. We'll just have the live stream. And then I'm going to try to either take a week off, or we'll have the FIFA video. And then right after FIFA, we will have draft analysis quarterbacks, we're looking at running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defenses, and kickers throughout 6 weeks. And then afterwards, we're going to move into our preseason coverage, and then of course, the NFL season. And I hope this time goes by very fast because man, do I not like waiting for football. But I thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. And if you do, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Go follow me on all my social medias as I am posting there more, especially on Twitter, which will be in the description below. So if you want to go follow me there, go check it out. Anyways, that'll do it for me. Hope you guys have yourself a great week. For all the believers out there, or for people of the Jewish faith, happy Holy Week. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Take care. And goodbye.